All right, everybody, good day. Today is Friday, March 20th. Fifth day through our hiatus here from school. So today, the question to think about in terms of getting America set for this war. Today's discussion is going to essentially be about what the American military was compromised of, or comprised of, of soldiers, what were their races, their genders, what were the jobs they were given to do, different aspects like that. A lot of this, especially the ethnicities that we'll talk about, a lot of those individuals will get into much more detail later on this unit. But at the same time, what I want to do is I want to make sure you understand kind of where American anxieties are right now, what soldiers joined up or were drafted, and I'll get you today's trivia question. All right, so for the question to think about today, what do you think happened to the anxieties of the Great Depression when World War II began? Why do you believe this? Are anxieties still on the Great Depression? Are they switched to something else? What do you think happened to those areas? What are people thinking about this time, specifically after Pearl Harbor, that beginning World War II for the United States specifically? So that's something I want to what you think about. If you want to stop, pause, kind of reflect upon this, talk with family members, whatever you want to do. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, what was it that Americans were most concerned about? Where did their anxieties go? All right, so as the American military came forward, we had many individual soldiers that they were fighting for their freedoms that we all held dear. We looked at the rights, the four freedoms posters we saw earlier this week. A lot of these soldiers were individuals who believed in the country, believed in the ability of the United States to win this war no matter what happened. All right, so let's continue on. Let's look at kind of some of the kinds of soldiers that we see that were brought forward. All right, so America had a ton of diversity in this. This is something that no other country brings to this fight. They have so many different kinds of soldiers, whether it's their ethnicities, whatever it might have been. A lot of these soldiers were coming from different parts of the country, let alone, some of them were even Native Americans. So you had African Americans, Native Americans, Asian Americans, and Hispanic Americans fighting in this war. Now, some notes here. You see one there, the African Americans and Hispanic Americans served in segregated units, meaning that if they fought, they only fought alongside those who were the same ethnicity. There are other cases where you see like individuals on naval vessels, in the Navy. Many African Americans or Hispanic Americans were relegated to the positions of like servants to the captain, which a lot of them did, very, very well, and a lot of them actually wanted to do those jobs. They were very proud to do those jobs in those ends, specifically knowing that they got the respect from the captain, which is something that many people did not get. But many of them were cooks. Shine boys, cleaners. A lot of them did the things that, many people would not want to do. And if they were given military tasks, they were given relatively unimportant tasks, while on the front. All right. So, but there are a couple of important aspects here that we'll talk about. Asian Americans, again, you'll get a lot of this more detailed information later. Asian Americans only fought in Europe for obvious reasons, obviously with the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. Many people did not want, Japanese or Chinese Americans fighting over there for the fear of that they might, switch sides and start firing on their own troops. Plus, it would also save the idea that no one's going to be a spy. If someone's a Japanese soldier in an American uniform, they're a spy. You don't have any doubts about that. So American military forced all Asian Americans to fight in Europe. Because over there, they're the only Asian people over there, so that makes the most sense for, sabotage or preventing all that. Native Americans had also a very, very unique job. They were brought forth for the Pacific War only. They were used as code talkers. Many of them who were Navajo, specifically the Navajo tribes, were code talkers during this war. That's the basis of your trivia question tonight, so stay tuned for that. But many of these individuals, use their native language to create code that they would report over in radio, and then they would essentially have that message translated by another code talker on the other end of the radio for that message to be used for military action, whether it's an airstrike, an artillery attack from a battleship, whatever it might have been. Native Americans use their native language to combat this. All right. Also, with women in the military, many of the jobs women had, the Women's Nurses Corps, Women Army Corps, many of them were clerks, typists, control tower operators, mechanics, photographers, test pilots, and also drivers. Women were also pilots for getting new planes to the front. If a new model of a plane came forward from the warehouses or the factories in the United States, they arrived via ship, and then they were flown to the front for the pilots to use. Women were the ones that flew those planes to the front. All right. Now, before we get into the battle, which will start on Monday, the actual battle of this war, the United States is going into a war that pretty much looks like this. You have most of Europe conquered. You can see Switzerland here, Sweden, Sweden, Spain, and Portugal, and then you see here Morocco. These are all neutral countries, but this is what the United States has to take. All right, we're going to start the United States fight for this next week here in Africa. Actually, for the Battle of the Atlantic, we'll watch. We'll take some notes, or at least go through some notes on those. All right. So trivia question today. You can pause this and get this down. I told my videos won't be too much longer than 6-7 minutes. But during World War II, the United States enlisted more than 400 Navajo soldiers for the Pacific War. These men would be the code talkers who would send messages via radio in their native language. What I want you to look up here tonight for your trivia question is, what was the Navajo word they used for transport plane? There's several different spellings of it. Whatever you find will be great. You do not have to pronounce it, but I do want to see the spelling of that. And look at also where its origins come from. Where did they get that literal translation for transport plane? All right. Kind of pay attention to how they use that. How they use that language in the literal translations to support their military efforts. All right. Everybody have a great week. Have a great weekend. Stay safe out there. Keep your distance from each other. Bye.